Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel for another episode of Pro Audio Deals and Disasters, the series where we look at used pro sound gear online and talk about the deals or how delusional the sellers are. You can join DcSoundOp on Patreon to watch these videos with no ads for only $1 a month. Huge thanks to the folks who do that and to everyone who visits the DcSoundOp page on Amazon and at DcSoundOp.com. It helps more than you could imagine. The point of this series was to see what's going on with eBay these days, specifically in pro audio. The pro audio category is under musical instruments in the books, movies, and music department. It's a little bit tough to find, but you have to go digging and you'll get it. Years ago, bidding on auctions with Auction Sniper was the way to get deals, but I think that's a pretty big waste of time now on eBay unless you're looking for something really specific. For general browsing, I like to search for newly listed, buy it now used gear that's located in my country. That gives you the best chance of seeing good deals as soon as they come up, as well as also being shown listings that accept offers. I also avoid buying anything new on eBay. I just don't think it's worth it. And staying domestic really does help eliminate a lot of the international and weird shipping scams that you might run into. But you still do have to be discerning, and I would recommend personally not buying anything from sellers with very low feedback. There's always a big risk with them that they are not genuine. So first up today, we got the classic used SM58 on eBay. These come up all the time, and if you've spent any time on any pro audio forums, you'll see tons of posts from folks asking if these are genuine. Now here's exactly what I'm talking about. This seller has zero feedback, maybe never has sold anything before. They've got a Shure SM58 and a Shure cable listed for $98, best offer plus $10 shipping. You could buy this brand new for that amount. So I don't know where people get this from. This is a pretty common thing I see on eBay nowadays, where people buy something, use it, and then expect to get full retail price back out of it. And then you also have to question whether or not this microphone is genuine. I'd guess it is based on what I'm seeing here. So that's a risky seller with no feedback. I wouldn't buy this one. Let's move on to the next thing. So here we're looking at the Earthworks PM40 piano mic system. It's a stereo system that looks kind of like it's mounted on a shower curtain rod. If you've never seen one of these before, they're interesting looking, but they do a really good job at getting consistent results. If you've got a piano in a room or a concert hall that moves on and off stage every day or for every performance, and you struggle to get consistency with placing mics, or if you have a situation where you just don't want to be putting mics on stands around a grand piano, this can be a fantastic solution. They really do sound great. It's an easy system to set up and work and get repeatable results. If you go between different pianos even, I've used them in that context as well. They're just very good all-in-one solutions for miking a grand piano. And if you've been involved with doing that before, you know that's not a simple thing. And right now it's $700 to bid. This one was owned by a church. It says it's working in great condition, church owned, just not used anymore. And the buy it now is $1,500, free pickup and free shipping. And if you were to buy one of these new, right now it's about twice that. $3,000 is what you would pay for this full kit. Obviously this one comes with the hard case, but the original one, the case is just a little bit different. If I had to guess, I would say this is one of the older or more original models, but it looks exactly like the models I've used before. And if you've ever been around one of these, you'll know what they do. That's a great deal. Half price, really realistic price for a used microphone system, and Earthworks mics always hold their value well. So I think that's a pretty nice one. These things do go for a lot, but I think they're worth it. Let me know what you think if you've used them. Moving on, this is an unusual one from Shure, but another good deal. This is the MX-WAPT-8Z10. This is an 8-point access point transceiver. And now these are $650 for this. Seems like a lot of money if you just think of it as like a wireless access point or something. But we go look at what these cost new. $3,800 for this model. So if you're doing Microflex, you're probably buying this stuff new, but if for some reason you have Microflex, Shure Microflex wireless stuff on hand and you're looking to get it working, and if you're looking for a used one, that is a heck of a good deal. Assuming that this one again is in all working order. It comes with the mount. It looks like it may have been installed previously, or maybe it was used as a demo or a setup model, but that's quite a discount off the new price of this 8-channel access point transceiver. So let me know if you've ever used these before and what you think of buying a used one. Would you do that? I know most clients buying these would be buying everything new to get the warranty, but that is a massive difference between new in the box and slightly used. And this is from a reputable seller that sells a bunch of other stuff kind of similar to this. So I'd be willing to take the chance on that if I needed one. Certainly would be happy to save the $3,200. But let me know what you think about those, especially if you've had any experience with the Microflex systems in the past. Up next, we've got a Sony PCM R500, and this is a really nice high-end professional DAT tape, a digital audio tape player. These in rough condition go for a couple $100, and in absolutely mint condition, they go for about $800 now. And you'll have to tell me what you think of the deal here, because this one is not in great condition. It's pretty rough, actually. You can see it's all scratched to bits and doesn't look like it's ever been cleaned or maintained, at least not the way I would keep my gear if I owned one of these. Pretty standard fare around back for Sony gear of this vintage. It probably works. These things were all built like tanks. I would say the electronics probably work. Whether or not the actual transport mechanism still works is highly debatable. So either way, this would probably need at very least some maintenance and lubrication to get everything actually back to working spec. But the whole reason they're charging $785 as a buy it now, there's no option to make an offer here, is because of who owned it. They're saying, it was previously owned by Leon Russell, and Leon Russell here passed away some years ago. And they're trying to attach some provenance of this gentleman owning this DAT machine to raise it from what should be a couple $100 machine up to the absolute mint condition price for one. And they're not even saying in the description whether or not this works. They've just included the resume of the folks who may or may not have actually used it. So you got Leon Russell, Steve Ripley, the Tractors, Bob Dylan, Ripley Guitars, the Church Studio, and the Leon Russell Estates. So they're really trying to squeeze like $500 or so extra dollars out of this. Just because somebody owned it. And that might get you somewhere with a guitar or an instrument that was played on stage or played in a studio on a famous recording. You can definitely get a little bit more money for things if you have documentation, and at very least it helps to have a photo or some sort of actual proof that the piece of equipment came from where you're saying it came from. These are all close-up photos of this deck. Could be in anybody's studio in the background. So I certainly would not be interested in paying a premium price for a piece of hardware like this. You almost never see hardware like this go for more than what it's worth just because it was owned by somebody, unless that person is extremely famous. So, maybe this would be worth it to somebody, a big Leon Russell fan out there, but I think this is a pretty big joke. This is a huge seller. They got almost 20,000 feedback, and they're just trying to squeeze somebody on this story that they have no proof of and no way to authenticate as far as I can tell. So unless they've got a batch of photos of, this being used on a famous session or something, I think this is a terrible deal, and these folks should get real, and they might be able to sell this if they bring the price down $500 or $600. And this is from Mask Sound. It's a 4-channel relay switchover system, so you can either directly or remotely switch between a set of A inputs and a set of B inputs to a set of outputs. So you've got 4 outputs, 4 A inputs, 4 B inputs. Let's go full screen here. And then a remote control input on XLR as well. So, and on the front, you see the same thing. It's just a simple contact switch that activates the B set of inputs. So you could use this to switch over a sound system or anything else really that has 4 audio lines and you need redundancy or just remote switching between 2 sources to a single output. It comes with a power supply. It looks like here probably a simple 12-volt power supply, and you could probably make up a simple switch just like they have on the front and wired in XLR to be able to switch this from a remote location. So very handy piece of gear that Mask probably had custom made or made in-house, and for $350, very handy piece of gear there for anybody who might actually need it. This is another super optimistic seller, $625 or best offer with free shipping, fair enough, for a Zoom F6, and they state down here that it works great. They're just selling it so they can upgrade. I forget where they wrote that. Here it is, lightly used, selling to upgrade. Brand new, these cost $650. You can't buy something and use it and then sell it again for $20 off. Like, it's just ridiculous. So I thought that was just amazing. 19 feedback, so the seller's legit, but $20 off a used Zoom recorder with no warranty. That's crazy. People are amazing. This one I thought was interesting. This is a sound rack that would have been pretty happening for like a wedding band system like 15 years ago. This would have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This would have been really something to talk about. And it's an O1V96, which is one of my favorite boards of the era. This would have been a pretty good rig for, party band or a wedding band. You've got an O1V96. Looks like the original version may have been upgraded to the V2 software. They've got it all mounted in a rack here with some other handy outboard gear. I saw in the back they've got optical cables going down to the Focusrite interface, presumably to do board recordings directly and to pick up the additional mic pre's into the console. Although, let's see, we can tell, looks like they just are using the inputs, no outputs from the console to that. So they're just using it for the inputs. Then they've got an Ashley graphic EQ, because unlike modern digital consoles, the O1V96 did not have graphic EQ on the faders. Like, you couldn't put a graphic EQ on an output. There was no virtual rack. There was no way to flip the faders to represent the graphic EQ like on an LS9. Everything in here was parametric, which I never minded, but I also had some analog EQs in the rack too that I could patch in for tricky situations. And I had a rack kind of similar to this, but it was a lot different. But the same idea, where the mixer was mounted on top and then you had gear down the front, and in the bottom here they've got a whole stack of pretty old Shure wireless UHF systems. Doesn't say what the frequencies are on these, so it'd be really hard to know if those are usable anymore. Depending on what band those are in, those could be completely unusable, at least here in North America. And then they've got an antenna distro system, and you can scope it out up here that they have a couple of mounts, it looks like, to put maybe some antennas on the back of the console. So they've got everything loomed up and ready to go, and it doesn't look like much today, and it's certainly seen its fair share of use by the looks of things. But a good few years ago, this would have been a really nice system. This would have been a very efficient way to roll into a ballroom and set up for a small band very quickly. You'd have this and probably an amp rack or some powered speakers, and you would be ready to go. So I personally really enjoyed the O1V96 for that. Once you got quick on them, they were a very capable console, especially for the money. They were extremely cheap. I think I bought my first one for $1,200 only, and at the time, compared to an LS9, that was thousands cheaper. So they really did a lot of good work. I can't tell you the amount of high-profile jobs I mixed on one of these. And for $900, it's a little bit high price now, I think, for what's in this rack. But for nostalgia, it's certainly pretty cool to see somebody moving one of these out. Hopefully this finds a good home and doesn't end up just collecting dust. And finally, you'll have to let me know what you think of this system. It looks like something that was custom built for a marching band. It's a Yamaha PA system on these custom dollies. Very heavy duty, certainly look like they would roll across grass or gravel or dirt. This could be Interesting system. If you're local to where the seller is and you need something like this, $22.99 is not cheap for these speakers, but you're getting an amplifier and somebody solved all these problems of carting them around already. It's pretty DIY, like the cables go into plastic buckets for storage, but it looks like it probably works. And if you need a rig for something portable, or you've got a high school marching band or something that needs a sound system like this and you don't have anybody to help you build something custom, this is already done. And it's probably done a few shows. Doesn't look like it's been abused or left out in the rain or anything. Pretty unusual little system, but let me know what you think in the comments about something like this. And if you think they're just crazy, it's definitely pricey at $22.99. That's on the very, very high side. You're not going to have the biggest market of people that are going to come and pick up or need something like this. But hey, let me know what you think of this, if you would take a chance on it.